The large meeting room on Centauri Prime was filled with worried voices. Representatives from dozens of alien worlds sat around a massive circular table, their faces showing concern and fear. At the center of the room stood Ambassador Krixtal, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms, holding a datapad that contained information no one wanted to hear. "The humans have done it again," Krixtal announced to the room. His voice carried across the chamber, making everyone fall silent. "Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Valiant has forced the Tarkonian Empire to give up their mining claims in the Zeta sector." A low murmur filled the room. The Tarkonians were known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors who never backed down from a fight. They had conquered 12 star systems and made their enemies surrender through pure force. Yet somehow, one human captain had made them give up valuable mining rights without firing a single shot. "How did this happen?" asked General Vextar, a reptilian creature whose own species had fought the Tarkonians for over a century. "My people have been trying to get those mining rights for 50 years. We offered them technology, trade agreements, even military support. They refused everything." Krixtal looked at his datapad and shook his head. "According to our sources, Captain Morrison simply told them that humans were interested in the sector. He said it would be better for everyone if the Tarkonians moved their operations somewhere else." The meeting lasted 3 hours. By the end, the Tarkonians agreed to leave immediately. The room erupted in confused chatter. Species that had been dealing with galactic politics for thousands of years could not understand how such a simple conversation could achieve what wars had failed to accomplish. Commander Zeltari, whose people had been allies with the Tarkonians for generations, raised one of her 6 hands. "There must be more to this story. The Tarkonians do not surrender easily. What threats did this human make?" "That is what makes this so disturbing," Krixtal replied. "Our intelligence agents were monitoring the entire negotiation. Captain Morrison made no threats. He did not mention weapons or military action. He simply stated that humans wanted the sector and suggested it would be wise for the Tarkonians to avoid conflict." Another alien stood up from the back of the room. "Perhaps the Tarkonians have information about human military strength that we do not possess." Krixtal activated a holographic display above the table. It showed recent incidents involving human forces across the galaxy. "This is not an isolated event. 3 weeks ago, Commander Lisa Bryant stopped a 3-way war in the Outer Rim sectors. The Kelrani, Morphids, and Zenthi had been fighting over territory for 6 months. When Commander Bryant announced that humans would mediate the dispute, all 3 species immediately agreed to the first peace proposal." The display changed to show another incident. 2 months ago, Admiral Greg Foster encountered a pirate fleet near the trade routes. The pirates had been raiding merchant ships for years. When Admiral Foster told them to leave or be removed, they abandoned their base and fled to another galaxy. General Vextar leaned forward in his chair. "These humans have been in space for less than 60 years. How have they gained such influence so quickly?" Krixtal put down his datapad and looked around the room. "That is what we are here to discuss. Every species in this room has encountered humans in some capacity. They are not the strongest or the most technologically advanced species we have met. Yet somehow, they have gained a reputation that makes even our most powerful civilizations think twice before opposing them." A small, furry creature near the front spoke up. "My traders have dealt with humans many times. They are direct in their communication and refuse to accept unfavorable deals, but they are not unreasonable. They offer fair exchanges and honor their agreements. Fair or not, they are changing the balance of power in our galaxy," replied Krixtal. "Human colonies are expanding rapidly. Their trade networks are growing larger every month. Other species are forming alliances with them instead of with us." The holographic display showed a map of human territory. What had been a small cluster of worlds around Earth had grown into a significant portion of space in just 5 decades. Green lines showed trade routes, blue dots marked colonies, and red areas indicated zones where human ships patrolled regularly. "Look at this expansion," Krixtal continued. "They started with 1 world and now control over 200 star systems. They have not conquered these territories through war. Species are voluntarily joining their alliance or requesting protection." Commander Zeltari studied the map carefully. "What kind of protection are they offering?" "Our intelligence reports suggest that human fleets are not particularly large compared to other galactic powers." "That is correct," Krixtal agreed. "Human fleets are smaller than ours. Their ships use technology that is advanced, but not beyond our understanding. Their weapons are powerful, but not more powerful than what we possess. Yet somehow the mere presence of human forces seems to prevent conflicts. An elderly alien with silver skin stood slowly. Perhaps we are overthinking this situation. Humans may simply be skilled diplomats who understand psychology better than we do. Skilled diplomats do not explain everything we have observed, Krixtal responded. He activated another part of the display. Human merchants report that pirate attacks on their ships have decreased by 90% in the last year. Smugglers avoid routes that pass through human space. Even the Vorthak Collective has stopped expanding in directions that would bring them into contact with human territory. The mention of the Vorthak made everyone in the room uncomfortable. The Collective was a species that consumed other civilizations, turning them into part of their hive mind. They had destroyed hundreds of worlds and showed no mercy to any species they encountered. If even they were avoiding humans, there had to be a reason. "What do we know about human military capabilities?" asked General Vextar. "Have any of our allies tested their defenses?" Krixtal hesitated before answering. The hegemony attempted to probe human responses by sending scout ships near their borders. The humans detected the ships immediately and sent a message saying that further intrusions would be considered hostile acts. The scouts were escorted out of human space by vessels that appeared from nowhere and disappeared just as quickly. "Stealth technology," commented Commander Zeltari. "Many species possess such capabilities. Yes, but our scouts reported that the human escort ships moved in ways that should have been impossible. They changed direction without any visible propulsion systems and accelerated faster than their ship design should allow." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If humans possessed technology that exceeded their apparent capabilities, they might be far more dangerous than anyone realized. Krixtal closed the holographic display and looked around the room. The Galactic Council must decide how to respond to the human expansion. We can attempt to establish stronger diplomatic relations, or we can take steps to limit their influence before it grows beyond our control. As the meeting continued into the night, none of the assembled aliens realized that their fears were based on incomplete information. The humans they had encountered were regular military officers and diplomats. Earth's true warriors remained hidden, waiting for a threat that would require their unique skills. In the depths of space, human ships continued their patrols, their crews unaware that they had become the subject of galactic concern. They were simply doing their jobs, protecting their colonies and maintaining peace in their territory. The galaxy would soon learn that what they had witnessed so far was nothing compared to what humanity was truly capable of when faced with a real threat. The emergency signal from New Dakota reached Earth's command center at exactly 0347 hours. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez was monitoring deep space communications when the transmission came through. The message was short and filled with static, but the words were clear enough to send chills down her spine. "This is Colonel Ryan Blake, New Dakota Defense Force. We are under attack by unknown hostile forces. They appeared without warning and overwhelmed our orbital defenses in minutes. The enemy is landing ground troops across the planet. Request immediate assistance. This may be our final transmission." Amy immediately forwarded the message to General Patricia Wells, who was in her office despite the early hour. The general had been expecting bad news for weeks. Intelligence reports suggested that something was moving through the outer territories, destroying colonies and leaving no survivors. "Get me a connection to Admiral Foster," General Wells ordered. "And wake up Major Scott Henderson. Tell him to report to Briefing Room 7 immediately." Within an hour, the situation became clear. The attackers were the Vorthak Collective, a species that the Galactic Council had warned humanity about but hoped they would never encounter. The Collective consumed entire civilizations, turning their populations into part of a massive hive mind that grew stronger with each world they conquered. Admiral Foster's face appeared on the main screen in the briefing room. He was aboard his flagship 3 sectors away, too far to provide immediate assistance. "The closest regular fleet units are at least 4 days away," he reported. "By then New Dakota will be completely processed." General Wells nodded grimly. She had hoped this day would never come, but she had prepared for it. "Admiral, I am authorizing the deployment of Unit 7. Major Henderson will lead the operation." "Understood, General. Are you sure 12 people can handle a full collective assault?" "We are about to find out." Major Henderson arrived at the briefing room within minutes, still wearing his training gear from the morning exercise session. He was a tall man with calm eyes and scars on his hands that told stories he never discussed. Behind him came 11 other soldiers, each one handpicked for abilities that went far beyond normal military training. Sergeant First Class Kelly Martinez was the team's demolitions expert. She could disable enemy equipment using tools that most people could not even lift. Staff Sergeant Nicole Price specialized in stealth operations and had never been detected during a mission. Corporal Ben Clark was their close combat specialist, trained in fighting techniques that were classified at the highest levels. Major, you have 6 hours to reach New Dakota, General Wells explained. Intelligence suggests the collective needs at least 2 days to fully process a planet's population. That gives you a narrow window to disrupt their operation. What about the orbital defenses? Asked Sergeant Martinez. If they destroyed Colonel Blake's fleet, how do we get to the surface? General Wells smiled for the first time that morning. You will be using the Razor. Lieutenant Commander Troy Watson will be your pilot. The mention of the Razor caused several team members to exchange glances. The ship was legendary within Special Operations Command, though its existence was known to very few people outside the program. It used technology that made regular stealth ships look like children's toys. Sir, what is our mission objective? Major Henderson asked. Simple, General Wells replied. Destroy the collective forces on New Dakota and rescue any survivors. Show the galaxy what human soldiers can actually do when they stop holding back. Lieutenant Commander Watson met the team at the hidden launch facility beneath Earth's moon. The Razor looked like a normal courier ship from the outside, but its appearance was deceiving. The hull contained armor that could withstand direct hits from capital ship weapons. The engines could accelerate faster than anything else in human space. How long to reach New Dakota? Henderson asked as the team loaded their equipment. 3 hours and 40 minutes, Watson replied. I will have you on the surface before the collective realizes we are there. Staff Sergeant Victor Lopez checked his weapon systems one final time. His equipment included tools that could cut through collective bioarmor like paper. The weapons were based on technology that humanity had developed in secret, far beyond what they had revealed to the galactic community. As the Razor departed Earth's solar system, the Galactic Council was holding an emergency session. News of the Vorthak attack on New Dakota had reached Centauri Prime, and Ambassador Crixtall was reading reports with growing concern. The collective has established a full hive node on the planet's surface, he announced to the assembled representatives. Our long-range sensors show massive biomechanical construction occurring across 3 continents. The human colony appears to be completely overrun. General Vextar leaned back in his chair. How many humans were living on New Dakota? Approximately 4 million, Crixtall replied. By tomorrow, they will all be part of the collective consciousness. The planet will become another staging ground for Vorthak expansion. Commander Zeltari activated her personal communicator. Should we prepare a memorial ceremony? It is the traditional response when the collective claims a world. That would be appropriate, agreed Crixtall, though I wonder how the human government will respond. They have been remarkably protective of their colonies. Unknown to the Council, humanity's response was already in motion. The Razor had crossed 3 star systems without being detected by any of the monitoring stations that tracked ship movements throughout the galaxy. Watson's piloting skills, combined with the ship's advanced stealth systems, made them effectively invisible. Major, we are approaching the New Dakota system, Watson reported. I count 12 collective ships in orbit around the planet. They appear to be harvesting vessels designed to transport processed populations. Henderson studied the tactical display. The Vorthak ships were massive, each one capable of carrying millions of converted beings back to collective space. But they were also slow and focused on their harvesting operations rather than defense. Can you get us past them? Henderson asked. Not a problem, Watson replied confidently. These ships use bio-based sensors that cannot detect our hull composition. We might as well be invisible to them. The Razor slipped past the collective fleet like a shadow. Watson guided the ship through the orbital defenses and into the planet's atmosphere without triggering a single alarm. The Vorthak had no idea that 12 human soldiers were about to change the course of the battle. As they descended toward the surface, the team could see the extent of the collective's work. Massive organic structures had grown across the landscape like cancer. Biomechanical towers stretched into the sky, pulsing with energy as they processed human captives and converted them into collective drones. Target the central processing node, Henderson ordered. If we can destroy their primary intelligence center, the entire operation will collapse. Sergeant Martinez studied the readings from her equipment. Sir, I am detecting some kind of adaptive shielding around the main structure. The collective has learned to protect their important installations. Then we adapt faster than they do, Henderson replied calmly. That is what makes us human. The Razor touched down in a forested area 5 kilometers from the main hive node. As the team prepared to disembark, each soldier checked equipment that represented the pinnacle of human military technology. Their suits could protect them from biological weapons, energy attacks, and physical trauma that would kill unprotected humans instantly. Captain Susan Wright, the team's medic and extraction specialist, loaded her medical supplies and rescue equipment. Her job would be to locate and evacuate any surviving colonists while the rest of the team dealt with the collective forces. Remember, Henderson told his team as they prepared to leave the ship, the galaxy is watching even if they do not know it. What we do here will determine how humanity is viewed for generations. Make it count. As Unit 7 disappeared into the alien landscape, Lieutenant Commander Watson prepared the Razor for a combat departure. Soon, the Vorthak Collective would learn that consuming a human world was far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The Collective had turned New Dakota's capital city into something that looked like a nightmare. Where beautiful buildings had once stood, organic towers now stretched toward the sky, pulsing with a sickly green light. Biomechanical creatures crawled through the streets, searching for any remaining humans to capture and process. Major Henderson and his team moved through the forest outside the city like ghosts. Their advanced suits kept them hidden from the collective's sensors while allowing them to observe the enemy's operations. What they saw made even these experienced soldiers feel sick. Thousands of human colonists were being held in organic pods attached to the main hive structure. The collective was slowly converting them, erasing their individual minds and making them part of the hive intelligence. The process took several hours for each person, which meant there was still time to save many of the captives. Sergeant Martinez, what do you see? Henderson whispered into his communicator. Martinez was positioned on a hill overlooking the city, using advanced scanning equipment to analyze the collective's defenses. Sir, I count approximately 3,000 biomechanical drones patrolling the area. The main processing center is heavily protected by some kind of adaptive shielding system. Can you breach it? Henderson asked. Give me 30 minutes and a clear path to the base of the structure, Martinez replied confidently. I have some new toys that the collective has never seen before. Corporal Ben Clark was already moving toward the city's outer defenses. His mission was to create a distraction that would draw the collective's attention away from the main assault. He carried weapons that looked simple, but were based on technology that most galactic civilizations had not yet developed. The first collective patrol never knew what hit them. Clark moved through their position like a shadow, his combat knife cutting through biomechanical armor as if it were paper. The creatures had been designed to fight conventional enemies, not soldiers who could move faster than their sensors could track. Within minutes, an entire section of the collective's perimeter defenses had gone silent. The hive intelligence detected the loss of contact but could not determine what had caused it. No enemy signatures appeared on their sensors, no energy weapons had been fired, and no explosions had been detected. Staff Sergeant Nicole Price led a second team toward the processing center from a different direction. Her specialty was stealth infiltration, and she had never failed to reach a target. Price moved through the collective's defenses as if they did not exist, her suit's technology making her completely invisible to their detection systems. The collective had learned from thousands of battles against dozens of species. Their biomechanical intelligence could adapt to any attack pattern, develop countermeasures for any weapon, and predict the tactics of any enemy. But they had never encountered humans before, and human tactics did not follow the patterns they had learned to recognize. Staff Sergeant Victor Lopez approached the hive structure from below, using tunnels that the collective had not bothered to defend. Their intelligence told them that no species was capable of moving through the unstable underground passages without specialized equipment. They had not considered that human soldiers might carry equipment that could stabilize the tunnels and create safe passage routes. Major, I am in position beneath the main processing node, Lopez reported. I can see the structure's foundation. The biomechanical supports look strong, but they have a weakness. What kind of weakness? Henderson asked. They depend on a central nervous system to coordinate their defensive responses. If I can disrupt that system at the right moment, The entire structure will become vulnerable. Henderson coordinated his team's movements with the precision that had made Unit 7 legendary within Special Operations Command. Each soldier knew their role and could execute their part of the mission without direct supervision. This level of independence was something the collective had never encountered in any species. Captain Susan Wright had located a group of surviving colonists who had managed to hide in the city's underground shelters. The collective's drones were searching for them, but the humans had used tactics that confused the biomechanical intelligence. They had split into small groups, moved constantly, and avoided creating any patterns that the collective could predict. Captain Wright to Major Henderson, she reported quietly, "I have found approximately 200 survivors in Shelter Complex 7. They are unharmed but scared. The collective has not located them yet. Can you get them to a safe extraction point?" Henderson asked. "Affirmative, sir. Give me 20 minutes to move them to the forest clearing where we landed." The collective's central intelligence was becoming increasingly agitated. Enemy forces were operating within their perimeter, but their adaptive systems could not identify or counter the threat. Every time they developed a response to one attack, the humans changed their tactics completely. Sergeant Martinez reached the base of the main hive structure and began preparing her demolition charges. The explosives she carried were based on principles that the collective had never encountered. Instead of simply destroying the target, they would disrupt the biomechanical systems that held the structure together. "Charges are in place," Martinez reported. "The collective's shielding system will not protect against this type of attack." "All teams report status," Henderson ordered. "Clark here. Perimeter defenses are neutralized. The collective has no idea where the attacks are coming from." Price reporting. "I have reached the main processing chamber. The captives can be released when you give the order." Lopez in position, ready to disrupt the Foundation support systems. "Right here. Survivors are moving to the extraction point. We will be clear in 15 minutes. Henderson checked his chronometer. The operation had been running for less than 2 hours, and they were ahead of schedule. The collective, despite their reputation for invincibility, had been completely unable to adapt to human tactics. "Execute Phase 2, Henderson ordered. Lopez triggered his charges first, disrupting the biomechanical nervous system that controlled the hive structure's defenses. The collective's adaptive shielding flickered and failed as the central coordination system went offline. Martinez detonated her explosives a few seconds later. The carefully placed charges sent shockwaves through the structure's foundation, causing the massive biomechanical towers to collapse inward. The sound of the destruction could be heard for kilometers. Price released the captive humans from their processing pods, while the collective's systems were in chaos. Most of the colonists were still conscious and able to move, though they were weak from their ordeal. Price guided them toward emergency exits that the collective had never realized existed. Above the planet, the Vorthak fleet detected the destruction of their primary processing facility. For the first time in their species' history, the collective experienced something approaching panic. They had never lost a hive node to such a small enemy force. The collective dispatched 3 of their capital ships to investigate the surface, but Lieutenant Commander Watson was ready for them. The Razor emerged from its hiding place among the planets, moons, and engaged the enemy vessels with weapons that defied everything the collective thought they knew about human technology. Watson's ship moved in ways that should have been impossible for its size and design. It accelerated without visible propulsion, changed direction without momentum, and fired weapons that penetrated collective armor as if it were tissue paper. The 3 capital ships found themselves outmaneuvered by a single human vessel that was a fraction of their size. "This is impossible," transmitted the collective's fleet commander. "Human technology is not advanced enough for such capabilities." Watson's response was brief and direct. "You have 30 seconds to withdraw from this system or be destroyed." The collective had never retreated from any battle in their species' history, but they had also never encountered an enemy that could destroy their most powerful ships with such ease. After a brief consultation with their central intelligence, the 3 capital ships powered down their weapons and began moving away from the planet. On the surface, Henderson's team completed their extraction mission with the same efficiency they had shown during the assault. Captain Wright loaded the rescued colonists aboard the Razor, while the rest of the team eliminated the remaining collective forces in the area. Major, all objectives completed. Wright reported. We have rescued over 1,800 colonists and completely destroyed the collective's processing facilities. Outstanding work, everyone, Henderson replied. Let us go home. As the Razor departed New Dakota's atmosphere, the remaining collective ships in orbit made no attempt to intercept them. The biomechanical intelligence that had conquered hundreds of worlds was struggling to process what had just occurred. A force of 12 humans had destroyed a fully established hive node, rescued most of the captive population, and forced an entire collective fleet to retreat. According to every tactical analysis in their vast database, such an outcome was impossible. The collective's fleet commander sent an urgent message to their homeworlds. Recommend immediate strategic reassessment regarding human military capabilities. Previous intelligence was severely inadequate. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began before dawn on Centauri Prime. Ambassador Krixtal had called the meeting after receiving intelligence reports that seemed too incredible to believe. According to multiple independent sources, a small human force had not only survived an encounter with the Vorthak Collective, but had actually defeated them. Ladies and gentlemen, Krixtal announced to the packed chamber, I have received confirmation that the human colony of New Dakota has been liberated from collective control. The Vorthak forces have withdrawn from the system entirely. The room erupted in confused chatter. General Vextar stood up immediately, his reptilian features showing disbelief. That is impossible. The collective does not retreat. They have never abandoned a world once they begin processing it. Commander Zeltari activated her personal scanner and checked the data feeds from the outer territories. Our monitoring stations confirm it. The Vorthak fleet left the New Dakota system approximately 6 hours ago. They are currently moving toward the galactic rim at maximum speed. How many human ships were involved in this battle? Asked an elderly delegate from the hegemony. Our intelligence suggested that their nearest fleet units were days away from New Dakota. Krixtal looked at his datapad with an expression of complete bewilderment. According to our sources, only one human vessel was detected in the New Dakota system during the entire engagement. The chamber fell silent. Every species represented in the council had lost worlds to the collective. The Vorthak had consumed entire civilizations without ever suffering a significant defeat. The idea that one human ship could force them to retreat was beyond comprehension. There must be an error in the intelligence reports, insisted General Vextar. No single vessel could challenge a collective hive fleet. I thought the same thing, Krixtal replied. So I contacted the human embassy directly and requested clarification. The main display screen activated, showing Ambassador Jake Morrison's face. The human diplomat looked tired but pleased, as if he had just received good news from home. Behind him, other human officials could be seen working at various stations. Ambassador Morrison, Krixtal began carefully. We have received reports about the situation at New Dakota. Can you confirm what happened there? Morrison nodded. Certainly. The collective attacked our colony world and began processing the population. We responded with a rescue operation that successfully evacuated most of the civilians and eliminated the enemy forces. How many ships did you deploy for this operation? Asked Commander Zeltari. 1. Morrison replied simply. The alien representatives exchanged glances. General Vextar leaned forward. Ambassador, perhaps there is a translation error. You said 1 ship? That is correct. The operation was conducted by a single vessel with a crew of 13 people. The chamber erupted again. Several delegates began talking at once, their voices rising as they tried to process this information. The idea that 13 humans could defeat a force that had destroyed hundreds of worlds was simply impossible to accept. Ambassador Morrison, Krixtal said loudly, trying to restore order. With respect, our intelligence indicates that the collective had established a full hive node on New Dakota. They deployed thousands of biomechanical drones and at least 12 capital ships. How could 13 people possibly overcome such a force? Morrison's expression remained calm. I cannot discuss operational details for security reasons. However, I can tell you that our people performed exactly as expected. The mission parameters were met within acceptable time limits. This response made the situation even more disturbing. Morrison was talking about defeating the collective as if it were a routine training exercise. He showed no surprise or excitement about achieving what the rest of the galaxy considered impossible. Admiral Foster's face appeared on a secondary screen. He was aboard his flagship, which was now heading toward New Dakota to provide follow-up support. Council members, if I may add some context to this discussion. Please do, Admiral, Crixtal requested. We are trying to understand how this victory was achieved. Foster smiled grimly. The force that liberated New Dakota was a special operations unit. They represent a small fraction of Earth's military capabilities, but they are trained for exactly this type of mission. What do you mean by special operations? Asked General Vexitar. Elite soldiers who specialize in missions that regular forces cannot handle, Foster explained. Every human military branch has such units, though their existence is not widely publicized. Commander Zeltari studied the data feeds from her personal scanner. Admiral, our monitoring stations recorded some unusual energy signatures during the battle. The human ship appeared to move in ways that should be impossible for its size and design. That would be classified technology, Foster replied. I cannot discuss specific capabilities, but I can tell you that our special operations forces have access to equipment that is not used by regular units. The implications of this statement sent a chill through the chamber. If humans had been hiding advanced military technology, it meant that every assessment of their capabilities had been wrong. The diplomatic encounters and trade negotiations that had impressed the galaxy might represent only a tiny fraction of human potential. Admiral Foster, Crixtal said slowly, when the Council first began monitoring human expansion, we were concerned about your species' influence on galactic politics. We now realize that our concerns may have been based on incomplete information. What do you mean? Foster asked, though his expression suggested he already knew what Crixtal was thinking. We have been evaluating human capabilities based on your diplomatic corps and regular military forces. It appears that we have never actually seen your elite warriors in action before. Foster nodded. That is correct. The units that liberated New Dakota are trained for threats that we hope never to encounter. Until now, there has been no reason to deploy them against galactic opponents. General Vextar leaned back in his chair, his mind racing as he tried to process the strategic implications. Admiral, how many of these special operations units does Earth possess? That information is classified, Foster replied. However, I can tell you that the unit deployed to New Dakota was not our most capable team. The chamber fell silent again. If the humans had multiple units that were even more capable than the force that had defeated the collective, it meant that Earth's military potential was far beyond anything the galaxy had imagined. Admiral, Commander Zeltari asked quietly, what would happen if humanity faced a threat that required deployment of your most elite forces? Foster's expression became serious. I hope we never have to find out. The teams that liberated New Dakota were operating under strict rules of engagement, designed to minimize collateral damage and avoid revealing sensitive capabilities. If we faced an existential threat, those restrictions would be removed. Ambassador Morrison appeared again on the main screen. Council members, I want to emphasize that humanity has no aggressive intentions toward any galactic civilization. Our special operations forces exist solely to protect human worlds and citizens. We hope to continue building peaceful relationships with all species. Of course, Crixtal replied, though his voice carried a new tone of respect. However, the Council must update our assessments based on this new information. We clearly underestimated human military capabilities. That was intentional, Morrison admitted. Earth's leadership prefers that potential enemies underestimate our abilities rather than overestimate them. It reduces the likelihood of conflicts and allows our diplomats to work more effectively. As the session continued, the alien representatives struggled to accept the reality of what they had learned. The humans who had concerned them through peaceful expansion and trade negotiations possessed military capabilities that exceeded those of any known civilization. General Vextar privately calculated that if 13 humans could defeat a collective hive node, a full human military response might be capable of actions that defied current understanding of warfare. The prospect was both impressive and terrifying. Admiral Foster, Crixtal asked as the session neared its end, how should the galactic community adjust our relationship with humanity based on this new information? Foster's response was simple and direct. Treat us as you would any other civilization that values peace but is prepared for war. We prefer cooperation to conflict. but we are capable of defending ourselves and our allies. As the communication links closed and the alien representatives began filing out of the chamber, each of them carried the same thought. The galaxy had spent months fearing humanity's diplomats and traitors, never realizing that Earth's true warriors had been waiting in the shadows all along. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted in a single day, and no one was quite sure what that would mean for the future. 6 months after the New Dakota incident, the galaxy looked very different. Human space had expanded by 40%, but not through conquest or military force. Instead, dozens of alien civilizations had voluntarily requested protection agreements with Earth's government. Ambassador Jake Morrison found himself busier than ever, negotiating treaties with species that had previously shown little interest in human contact. The requests for meetings came in daily, each one from leaders who had suddenly realized that having humanity as an ally might be more valuable than they had previously understood. "Ambassador," said his assistant, Lieutenant Sarah Johnson, as she brought him the morning's communication logs, "we have received formal requests for protection agreements from the Kelrani Confederacy, the Morphid Alliance, and 3 independent trading guilds." Morrison reviewed the messages with interest. 6 months ago, these same organizations had been concerned about human expansion. Now they were offering to pay for the privilege of flying under Earth's protection. What changed their minds? Morrison asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "Intelligence reports suggest that the Vorthak Collective has withdrawn from 3 entire star sectors since the New Dakota battle," Johnson replied. "Several species are concerned that other threats might emerge to fill the vacuum." The truth was more complex than that. The collective's withdrawal had indeed created opportunities for other aggressive species. But the real reason for the protection requests was simpler. Everyone wanted to avoid becoming humanity's enemy. Major Scott Henderson had returned to his normal duties at Earth's Special Operations Command, but his reputation had spread throughout the galaxy, despite all efforts to maintain secrecy. Alien intelligence services had spent months trying to identify the human force that had defeated the collective, and Henderson's name had eventually surfaced in their reports. "Major," said General Patricia Wells during their weekly briefing, "I need to discuss the security implications of your newfound fame." Henderson looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, I have not discussed the mission with anyone outside the command structure." "I know that," Wells replied. "But somehow alien intelligence agencies have identified you and several members of your team. There are species out there who would pay substantial sums to recruit soldiers with your capabilities. Are we concerned about defection?" Henderson asked. "Not from you or your team," Wells said with a smile, "but we are concerned about kidnapping attempts. The Hegemony's intelligence service has been making inquiries about your personal background and family connections. This was a development that Earth's leadership had anticipated but hoped to avoid. The revelation of humanity's elite military capabilities had made the galaxy much more interested in understanding how such soldiers were trained and equipped." Lieutenant Commander Troy Watson faced similar challenges. The Razor's performance during the New Dakota battle had convinced several alien governments that human stealth technology was far more advanced than they had previously realized. Watson found himself assigned to diplomatic escort duties, where his mere presence during negotiations was often sufficient to ensure favorable outcomes. "Commander Watson," said Admiral Foster during a secure communication, "I need you to escort Ambassador Morrison to the Tarkonian homeworld next week. The Tarkonians want to renegotiate their mining agreements, and they specifically requested that you pilot the diplomatic vessel." Watson was puzzled. "Sir, why would they care who pilots the ship?" "Because they know you are the pilot who outfought 3 collective dreadnoughts," Foster explained. "They want to see for themselves what human capabilities look like." The psychological impact of the New Dakota battle had exceeded all projections. Species that had previously considered humans to be moderately advanced were now reassessing every interaction they had ever had with Earth's representatives. Captain Susan Wright discovered this firsthand when she was assigned to a humanitarian mission in the Outer Rim. A plague had broken out on the mining world of Kepler 7, and the local government had requested human medical assistance. "Captain Wright," said the planetary governor, a nervous creature with 6 arms and compound eyes, "we are honored that Earth would send someone of your caliber to assist us." Wright was confused. "Governor, I'm just a medic. Any human doctor could handle this situation. But you are not just any medic, the governor replied. You are the soldier who rescued 1,800 people from the collective processing facility. Your presence here sends a message that humanity takes our planetary health seriously. Wright realized that her role in the New Dakota mission had made her a symbol of human capability throughout the galaxy. Species that might have questioned human medical expertise were now eager to accept her recommendations, simply because of her military reputation. The Galactic Council had spent the 6 months since New Dakota conducting a comprehensive review of human capabilities and intentions. Ambassador Crickstall presented their findings during a closed session attended only by the galaxy's most senior leaders. Our analysis confirms that humanity possesses military technology and training methods that exceed our previous assessments by several orders of magnitude, Crickstall reported. The force that liberated New Dakota represents only a small fraction of Earth's total military capability. General Vextar had been studying human tactical doctrine using every intelligence source available to his species. What concerns me most is that we still do not understand the full extent of their abilities. The humans revealed just enough capability to defeat the collective, but they clearly held back significant resources. Commander Zeltari nodded in agreement. Our technical analysts have concluded that the weapons and equipment used at New Dakota were probably not humanity's most advanced systems. They appeared to be using technology that was reliable and tested rather than experimental or cutting edge. The implications were disturbing. If humans had defeated the collective using only proven, reliable equipment, their experimental systems might be capable of achievements that defied current understanding of physics and warfare. What recommendations do we make to our member species? Asked the elderly delegate from the hegemony. Crickstall looked around the room before answering. We recommend full diplomatic engagement with humanity, combined with careful monitoring of their expansion. The humans have shown no aggressive tendencies toward galactic civilizations, but they have also demonstrated that opposing them would be extremely unwise. Meanwhile, the Vorthak Collective was conducting its own analysis of the New Dakota defeat. Their biomechanical intelligence had spent months processing the tactical data, trying to understand how their invasion force had been neutralized so quickly and completely. The Collective's Supreme Coordinator transmitted its findings to hive nodes throughout their territory. Human military capabilities exceed all previous estimates. Recommend immediate strategic withdrawal from any systems adjacent to human space. Further expansion in that direction should be postponed indefinitely. For the first time in their species' history, the Collective was actively avoiding contact with another civilization. Their analysis indicated that a full-scale war with humanity would likely result in the destruction of their entire species, regardless of the resources they committed to the conflict. Admiral Foster received reports of the Collective's withdrawal with satisfaction, but not surprise. The New Dakota operation achieved its primary objective, he told General Wells during their monthly strategy meeting. The galaxy now understands that attacking human worlds carries unacceptable risks. Are we concerned about other species attempting to test our capabilities? Wells asked. Not particularly, Foster replied. The beauty of the New Dakota mission is that it demonstrated overwhelming superiority without revealing specific capabilities. Potential enemies know that we can defeat the collective, but they do not know how we did it or what other tools we possess. This uncertainty was humanity's greatest strategic advantage. Species that might have been willing to challenge Earth's expansion when they thought they understood human capabilities were now reluctant to risk conflict with an opponent whose true strength remained unknown. Upton. Jake Morrison concluded a successful trade negotiation with the Zenthi Republic, securing access to rare minerals that would support human expansion for decades. The Zenthi had offered terms that were extremely favorable to humanity, largely because they wanted to avoid any possibility of conflict. Ambassador Morrison, said the Zenthi trade minister as they signed the agreement, we hope this partnership will demonstrate our species' commitment to peaceful cooperation with humanity. Morrison smiled diplomatically. The Earth government values all partnerships based on mutual respect and benefit. We look forward to a long and productive relationship. As Morrison left the Zenthi homeworld, he reflected on how much had changed since the New Dakota battle. Humanity had gained influence and respect throughout the galaxy. But they had also acquired a reputation that would follow them for generations. The galaxy had learned to fear humans before they understood what humanity was truly capable of. Now they knew that Earth's warriors possessed abilities that exceeded their worst nightmares, and that knowledge had changed the balance of power forever. In the deepest L,